Shalom. Call Halolim Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Macha Kudash and Shani Kabad Gadwala Bakwab Zakwanyam Nawu Washalayakim Nawu. And that is double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone. And Shalom Wabarakim Labakonyam Shalayasharala. And that is peace and blessings to the elect of Israel. And also, may a double portion of the Holy Spirit be put upon the brothers that are out there on the highways and byways, offering your bodies as a living sacrifice out there on the front lines. So by now, we should all know about the massive layoffs that are coming to our people when it comes to retail jobs. And of course, because of all the brick and mortars that are closing down ever since 2016, then you have a lot of people that have been keeping up with this. Now, I wanted to bring this out because, one, it has to do with prophecy, and two, it just shows that, in general, America is on a decline, and basically it's not going to ever come back from where it's about to go. You have a lot of economists saying that this next economic collapse is going to be far worse than the 1929 Great Depression. But with that being said, the scriptures talk about a time that's far worse than anything that ever was or shall be. So with that being said, America's not going to come back after the 30s and the 40s or whatever. America's not going to come back after this next so-called depression, if you will. It's going to be a perilous time, and it's going to get worse and worse. And we're seeing that start right now with this, what they call retail apocalypse. So with that being said, we'll get into the article and then grab a few scriptures. The retail apocalypse over the past several years has devastated America's department stores, chains, and mom and pops. Stores are closing at record levels. The number of people working in retail is on the decline. And all of that has happened at a time when the economy was strong. But if the United States slips into a recession, as many economists fear it will sometime next year, the problems plaguing retail could get far worse. Store closings could accelerate, and layoffs in the sector, a major provider of American jobs, could spread. Brick and mortar retailers are already in recession. They've been laying off workers coming up on 3 years, and this is a time when consumers are out spending aggressively. If the broader economy is in recession, there is going to be blood in the streets. So as you can see, America is on a decline. One of its top industries that are a part of employment in America, in Babylon the Great, we're seeing nothing but retail stores closing and massive job layoffs because of it. So this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 8. Because it's not like America's going to come back and then you're going to see more and more brick and mortars opening up. Jeremiah 51, verse 8. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We understand that America is Babylon. And when it says take balm for her pain, balm is a healing ointment. But there's no amount of money that can be printed and pushed into the economy that's going to make America come back from this decline that it's on right now. America is on a a circular spiral down the drain right now. And when it goes down that gutter, that's when all hell's going to break loose. And then eventually, America's not going to be able to come back because those nuclear missiles are what's going to utterly destroy America, in which nuclear missiles will be shot off from various countries in the midst of World War III and hit America and destroy America completely. That's all biblical prophecy. But as of right now, we're starting to see that America, for one, is not that hammer of the earth anymore. Its military might, just like the Roman Empire, we're seeing is most definitely spread thin. We're seeing the dollar not really to be what it used to be anymore. Lots of nations are striving to get away from the US dollar. And then we're seeing that financially, America just don't got it either. It's in massive debt. Debt is at an all-time high. College payment delinquency is at an all-time high. So is car loan delinquency at an all-time high. And then to make matters worse, people are getting laid off with these retail jobs. So there's nothing that can be done in order to turn this around and make America go back to what it so-called used to be in the good old days, so they say. Verse 9 says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Let's also get the book of Ecclesiastes, CC, chapter 12, verse 1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. Because who has pleasure in an evil day? In which the word evil just literally means a bad time, that's all. Who has pleasure in bad times? In which the bad times that we're talking about is something called Jacob's trouble in the book of Jeremiah. Jacob's trouble when you have an economic collapse, when you have martial law, when you have plagues and pestilence that are killing off millions of people, when you have nothing but earthquakes in diverse places. These are the times that we're coming into. The scriptures say, remember the Lord right now. Have faith on him. Beg for forgiveness now. Strive for the truth unto death right now. It starts right now. Serve the Lord and do his will right now before these evil days come. We're seeing that we're quickly approaching those evil days, this economic collapse, and then eventually martial law, with this retail apocalypse, as they say. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain, which is all an analogy for seek the Lord now while wisdom is crying out in the streets. Verse 3 says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. And this word has been looked up plenty of times, but we're going to go into that word grinders in the Hebrew, because it says, and the grinders cease because they are few. That word grinders in Hebrew is tachan, and it simply says to grind or to crush. You come down here, it says in the Strongs, to be a concubine, that being their employment. And this is specifically what it means as grinders or grinding. It represents employment in a broad sense, employment in a general sense. That's why it says to seek the Lord now, before these evil days come. Before what? In the days where the grinders shall cease because they are few. That represents job loss. Massive job loss because of what? Excuse me. Just like we read in that article, you have stores being closed down. And if stores are closed down, that means people can't work. That means you're going to get laid off. That means now people got to strive and to do something, either find another job or pay their bills doing whatever they can. And if you can't pay your bills, that means you're going to see a lot of homeless people. When you see homeless people, you're going to see a lot of angry people that can't pay their bills. And ultimately, combined with that, maybe this Trump impeachment, combined with maybe the trade war going on with China, you're going to see a lot of uproars and riots of the people here in America. I'm talking about millions of people all across the country rioting against one another. And that's going to lead to martial law. So let's keep going in that article. Read more. Here we go down here. U.S. retailers this year have already announced more than 8,200 store closures. It says by year's end, I'm jumping around now. By year's end, the annual tally could reach 12,000. 12,000 store closures is what CoreSite's research is estimating. It talks about Payless and Gymboree. It says consumers shifting their purchases from traditional stores to online, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to get the good points. Here we go. But fears of a downturn loom. Other major economies are already in or near recessions. A trade war between the United States and China could cause the price of consumer goods to rise. A survey by Duke University found that 2/3 of chief financial officers expect a recession by the end of 2020. And I brought out many different articles that actually say other economists and CFOs, chief financial officers, are predicting that there's going to be a recession starting in the second quarter of 2020. So sometime around, what is that? April, January, March, April, May, and June. So sometime around April, May, and June, second quarter of 2020 is when we're going to start really feeling the effects of this recession. But we'll see. Who knows? It could happen earlier. It could happen before. I mean, not earlier or after. It's all the Lord's will. Let's keep going really quickly. See if there's any more good points. It says, so far, many of the retailers that had failed did a poor job meeting consumers' needs. A recession would put a squeeze on even better managed up-and-coming retailers. Their future depends on them being able to find financing. A lot of retailers are hanging on because the broader economic environment is strong, interest rates are low, credit is available. No sector is more dependent on credit. If a recession comes, credit will get cut off both to the consumers and the retailers. That is going to mean a rash of bankruptcies and a lot of lost jobs. And a lot of jobs lost is going to lead to what? Martial law. It says, and retail is one of the biggest sources of employment in the U.S. economy, with 15.8 million jobs, or more than 10% of all jobs nationwide. The only areas to employ more people are healthcare and all the levels of federal, state, and local government. So basically the point has been made. America is not going to come back from the decline that it's on right now. And once again, with the retail stores closing, which means massive jobs being lost, that combined with its debt going on, that combined with the trade war with China, that combined with nations striving not to use the US dollar anymore, all this is going to lead to an economic collapse, which will bring about martial law, which is why we're going to read this here, which will ultimately bring in the microchip to be made mandatory, which is the mark of the beast. So last scripture, this is 2 Esdras chapter 15, starting at verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. What would cause that? An economic collapse. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. We're talking about martial law right here. Cities being quarantined, sectioned off. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, or with the weapon basically, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, meaning a famine is going to come to America, and for great tribulation. And a part of what's going to cause that great tribulation is not having a job, not being able to pay your bills, and then having famine, a lack of bread, scarcity of food basically. All that is going to lead to people invading one another's houses, not having any kind of regard for his neighbor. And that's going to bring about martial law, and then eventually the mark of the beast, that microchip. And then from there, we're just looking for World War III to break out, to fully manifest, and those nuclear missiles to be shot from various different countries onto America. But with that being said, I wanted to bring this out once again just to show that America is on a decline, and it will not come back once this collapse hits. So if you want to read more of this article, it was pretty good. It's from CNN, What the Retail Apocalypse Means for the American Economy. So with that being said, I want to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash, double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.